So now let's look at how to manage services on 390 Work. Services are a type of products or offerings rather that you might have in your business. And in this video, we'll look at how you want to manage such services. And 390 Work basically will be used to sell or deliver and track all of these services. It's the same way as products, it's just the different types of services that you might be having. All right, so what is a service in 390 Work? So it's like everything that cannot be touched, literally is a service that you sell but cannot be touched. My definition is this is a non-physical item that you offer to customers, like consulting, repairs, event planning, or delivery, anything literally that cannot be touched. So why do you want to track it? Because this will never be in your inventory, definitely. But you want to track it because you want it to appear in your sales reports. You want to be able to add it in your transactions on the dashboard and your invoice or quotations and all of that. So when you're creating a transaction, all of these things, you want to see these services and make sure that everything is really there with their prices, like a service list, like a product catalog or service like. Okay, so examples of services or what can count as services. And we've already done a list of those things here. So for business, consulting, and for hospitality, all of these things, trainings, deliveries, installation, styling, all of these things can qualify as services, and your business will definitely know which is what. All right, so next we'll be looking at how to add a service on 390 Work. Same earlier, I'd already come on to create a service when I added the transactions video, and I quickly had to create a service. So if you had watched that first, then you most likely would have seen a quick video on how to create a service, but this is going to be a more explorative video on how to create services. All right, so if you don't have access to services, just go to your app store here. And if you need to give different accesses to different people in your organization, you can just come to services and choose what services your team members should have. Maybe your digital marketer as well, you could give them access to be able to view all of the services that you render in your business. And services will be under the resources section. So I'll click on service and see what's there. So within the services now, I should be able to start with settings. And settings in this case would be where you can create the units of your service. In your case, you could say maybe per hour. If you render a service per hour, I can click or leave on the add another so that this pop-up will stay after I've created. So let's say service can be for an hour, let's say it's for a project, or let's say it could even be for a day, depending on how you render your services. And categories of services, you could have premium, whichever, and let's say styling. If you can cover all of your hairstyling, for example, in your business, you can have that setting or that category defined. Okay, so if I go back to all, in this case, I should be able to see all of the services that I've created. And there's this that we've created, consultation created earlier. And I'll show you how this works now in this new video that I've just taken through. So if you need a step-by-step breakdown of how services work, just click on the help here and just take you to the documents where we've worked on services. So that should be able to give you every form of information you might need. And it's simply broken down step by step for you to see how to do all of those outside this video. Okay, so back to services. Let's add a new one. So what could be the name of our service? We've already used consultation, so let's use training. And now that we've used training, we can give a description, let's say, to let you know how to be the best. Okay, so your category could be based on anything you have in the business, whether it's premium, in this case, or styling. Remember, we created any of those. If we select any of them, I believe it's in premium, then the price of this training, you can set it as, let's say, 50,000, for example. Okay, you can decide to select an image for this particular service here, or you could choose to include it maybe as part of a bundle. 1 second. So if you render this service as a bundle of services, so let's say within the service, there are other things that are done in the service. You can just check this on. and this will help you create a bundle. And within the bundle, you can then add different products or services rather within that particular service. So, or within that particular bundle. Then if you want to spotlight the service on the homepage, so it means on your 390 Hub homepage, if you want to sell or let people book the services online, or rather the service online, you could turn on this, which would make this service visible on your homepage. So to be one of the key things people see. You have the opportunity to put four, the maximum of four, so you could choose to use either these or other services you render. Then if this service is only booked within a bundle, you could include this if in some businesses you cannot just book the service sparingly. That's what the setting is for. All right, and this can work for now. Then for this service, before you click add service, there are other things here for you to see on the top here. So questions. So questions here, as it said, is these are questions that will be asked anyone that wants to book this service on your 390 Hub account. If you are not dealing with 390 Hub, you can just not worry about these. So, but if you want somebody to be able to book this service when they are, if you want somebody to book the service, then you can add some questions that they can fill up when they are booking the service. So just click new question. Maybe what would you like to drink? For example, this for some barbing salons, they always have different drinks and stuff. So you could just use this to get any information. And it depends on the service, any question that you may need to ask whoever that's coming to the place. Then reminders in this case help you act as actual email prompts that will be sent to people who are booking or have booked the service. So we have 15 minutes by default. Then you can create as many reminders as you want. So if you want to remind them 2 hours before, if you want to remind them then a day before the service starts, you could do all of those here. And configure, this is just advanced in a way, whereby you can choose the or change the name of the text. So it says booking action text. So if it's to book service, you can leave it by that. But if you want to say training, you can say book training because you're dealing with training. Then you can say after the training has been successfully booked, you can say booking or training confirmed. Thank you for booking a training. See you soon. That kind of stuff. Then you can double check everything about your service to see that, okay, that makes sense. Okay, if you have images, you can upload the images here, as many as you'd like. But in this case, I will just carry on and add the service. Okay, now we'd have this interface that summarizes everything about the service. All right, so now I have a service link, which is on the top right. I can choose to copy this and share it with whoever that I need to, or whoever that wants to book the service, just share the link with them. And what would they see when they visit the link? This is what they would see. They would be able to carry out this booking of the service. Remember, we changed this to book training when we're filling up that particular bubble. Okay, so if I choose book training, guess what's going to come up? It's going to say no one will render the service. Okay, so because you're dealing with Hub, you have to select somebody who would book that service on your end. And internally, these people are called service people. So the reason why we do this is for people who are dealing with Hub. It's because there are some times when there are different people within, of course, there are definitely people in your organization that would render the service. This is where you put their names. And why are you putting their names? Because you want to define when they would be available, because it's not every time. So people have off days on some certain days and work within some separate hours. And this is a more advanced booking system where you can then specify this way, just like the new service person, you can specify that this my assistant is going to have a fixed duration and she can handle consultation or this training for 30 minutes. I could change this to 45 minutes and say that maybe she should have about 15 minutes space between each booking. So which means if I book 2 o'clock and there's 45 minutes, the next 15 minutes break, then the next time that she can be booked should be 3 o'clock. That's what that does. Then the minimum time needed to handle new requests, which means if the time now is 10 p.m., it means the next time I should be able to get any booking should be 1 a.m. sort of. So which means this is the minimum time between now so that they will have enough time to prepare. Right? And availability here says what days are they on and what days are they off. So if I say, or if I see now based on our arrangements that these people or my stand is only available on, let's say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays, then on Monday, maybe it's not 9 to 5, maybe it's from 11 to, let's say, 1. Then maybe she's also available from 3 p.m. still on Wednesday to about 5 p.m. Yes, I can define all of those things here. So the advantage of doing this here is you can define for every single member of staff that will be rendering the service. Even myself, I could just accept all of the defaults and create a service person. So to tell me that, oh, I'm available all day of the week and my assistant is only available, let's say 4 days of the week for this. Okay, so now if somebody wants to book this service and I refresh this page, then it means they can now click on the book training and the two people who will be available will be here. So if they click my assistant, they will see only the days of the week that she can handle from what we specified. And if they go back and they choose me, then you'll see all days of the week that they can book my services and they can choose any of the times there. When we are dealing with Hub, I will show how the services can actually be booked and all of that. I remember the question that was asked here, what would you like to drink? The same question is here when they are willing or ready to book, and all of the pricing information will be here. Okay, so the last things we'll be discussing here would be variants, and variants in this case would be in case sometimes your training have, or trainings depending, have durations. So you can specify and say, okay, for the different types of trainings, there is the, let's say there is the monthly, and let's say there is the quarterly. Okay, so in this case, these are the types of training. Let's even say there is a yearly, depending on what type of training that is. So as a duration, so if I click on these new attributes now, this is going to create 3 different types of services for me based on this duration: yearly, quarterly, and monthly. And if there are other attributes that I want to include here, so let's say team size, that will be coming, let's say, attendance, or whichever. Let me just call it attendance. Okay, and I say self, then let's say 10. Maybe these also have different prices. So when I do this, it will create several variants. You can see now attendance of team, duration yearly, attendance of team, duration quarterly, attention of team, duration monthly, then self yearly, self quarterly, self monthly, based on these attributes that are included. Okay, so now when the customer wants to buy that or ask or get the services on their end, on their hub, then they can choose any of these variants as well. All right, so all transactions regarding this training will be here whenever this particular training has been bought. And you could also even go to any of these variants to change the pricing, images, and all of that. So if I go to attendance team, if I click into that, then I could also decide the service people for this particular training as well. And so again, if there are different personnel, I could just come in, still the same process. Who is going to pick this particular thing? If I'm going to handle team, there are different people depending on how your organization works and the availability of each person. Okay, so I can say that this is a variant of training, and the attributes of this is team quarterly. Okay, and yeah, I think that covers everything. And if the additional details for this training, you can put it here, maybe based on location, if the location is going to be virtual, and whatever information that you might need, you can add as many as you want. So when you update that, then they can see that information when they are booking this particular service. Okay, that covers everything within services. So if anybody then needs to carry out a transaction with the service, they just need to go to transaction. Then when they add a new item, they can then select this particular service that we just added, training, and see the 50,000 watts, then carry on from there. All right, that covers everything that we have on services.